Hello and welcome to Tovi. In this particular tutorial, we're going to talk about workflow or analysis history, and a little bit about traceability on the steps we've done, and also how to branch from a previous node or toolbox, kind of going back in time. Now, if you look up here, we have the nodes from each of the tools we've completed throughout our analysis. You can see these in earlier tutorial videos where we started with the raw data. We did our first QC screening where we cleaned up the sensible heat by setting mins and maximums. Then we came into our merge variable toolbox. We merged our air temperature and VPD. Then we went into our averaging toolbox where we averaged our soil heat flux probes. Then we went into our footprint analysis and we computed footprint. And now we're at the node we're shown here where we went back into the QC screening tool, used that footprint analysis results, and did some QC screening on latent energy. So this particular node is shaded gray to let you know where you're at. Now, before I go to something like gap filling, maybe I'm not happy with the amount of data missing from a particular variable. Let's assume sensible heat, which we did some QC screening on, and we excluded too much data. Now, if I go back to this node, I just have a small tag there telling me that I cleaned up sensible heat, but not exactly what I did. So if I want to go in and find out what I did, you always go to the node prior to the one you want to access. So if I want to go in and redo or look at my QC before I click the Done button, I go into the raw node here. Now it's going to go back and bring in those previous settings and load all the data for me. Now you can see I'm back at the raw node where I first started my analysis. Again, I can jump into any of these nodes, but I want to check in to see what I did to my first QC screening stage. So I go to the toolbox, go to my quality screening, and it's going to load up those charts. And you can see here's the sensible heat that we did the QC screening on early. We set mins and maxes. We did a date exclusion and did some other cleaning of variables. One of those of which is the Foken flags. You can see here we have it set to only accept zero quality flag data. Now maybe that's why I'm excluding too much data and I want to change that. What I can do then is simply drag this to a 1 and you'll notice some of these excluded points start to come back. And I can always hover over the menu and see now that I'm not throwing out quite as many. And if I go to this Done QC, I can tag this and say Foken flags set to 0 and 1. Hit continue, and now it's redoing my QC from back at that early stage, and you'll see where that puts us here in our workflow history. Okay, and what you'll notice now here is I've branched off from my raw data, and I have a new node here from when I've done the new QC. It also did all the sensible heat cleaning I did previously because I didn't edit any of those. The only thing I switched was for changing the Foken flags from 0 only to now 0 and 1 flag data. Now I can go from this node and go back through any of the steps I want to. I could recompute footprint, or I could now go to the gap filling tool, or I could do merging, anything I'd like. That'll conclude this tutorial.